Hi everyone, welcome to Sketchup Skills. My name is Jody, and in today's video we're going to go through a tutorial on how to model this bed from the Pottery Barn. It's fairly simple, but we're going to go through step by step how to create both the wood and the upholstered parts of this bed, and then at the end we'll do a little bit of texturing for the fabric and the wood materials. If you have any questions about this process, or if you have an idea for a video you'd like to see made, please leave me a message in the comments below. Let's get started. Okay everybody, so today we're just going to be modeling this Toulouse Upholstered Bed from Pottery Barn. It's fairly simple. We'll just flip through real quick here and look at a couple of the detail shots from the website. We're going to be looking at how to do some of these little accent pieces with the nail heads and the trim and the upholstered footboard and headboard here. I've done some screenshots of the side view and the front view of this piece. And then we'll just scroll down and take a look at some of the dimensions for this as well. So we can see that this is a 64.5 by 83.5 wide by 54 inches high. This is for the queen bed. And we're going to go ahead and start by creating our reference cube using these dimensions. A couple other details I want to notice is I've got 5 inches from the floor to the bottom clearance, and then the side rail is about 9.5 inches high as well. So those are some details that we want to keep in mind while we are working on our reference cube. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some images in on my reference cube and then some details in. I'm going to speed this spot up just a little bit. If you would like to learn more about making a reference cube for your own pieces, you can watch my other video here. Just putting in a few reference lines here. And as always, I want to make sure that I am labeling things in my outliner as well to keep my file organized. I'm going to start with the footboard here. So outside of my reference cube, I'm just creating a rectangle to identify the shape and the size of the footboard. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the headboard. These are just sort of placeholders until I start working on some of the detail. Now I'm going to create the side rail, and I'm going to hide my reference cube while I'm working on this and just go ahead and extrude the side of it to the depth that it needs to be. 1.5 inches I think is what it was. I'm going to group, each of these items has been grouped, and the side rail I'm going to make a component. It's going to be repeated on the other side of the bed. So I'm using Sketchup 2024 here with the mirror tool, and I'm going to mirror it in copy mode. That means I'm going to hit the the option key to make a copy of it while I'm mirroring. And then I'm just going to go ahead and create the detail of this top rail. Because it's a component, anything that I do on this side is going to be repeated on the other piece. So I'm just going to come in on the side over here and model out the shape of the rail here. I'm selecting just a couple of these edges here. I'm going to go ahead and use the Bevel tool. You could just model this with curves on the edge if you wanted to avoid using this extension, but I just find this one to be fairly simple and makes the process just a little bit faster. Okay, so we're going to start working on the footboard here. The first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to split this piece in half because it's mirrored from the right side to the left side. I don't want to model two sides, each side individually. It's just going to be double the work, so I'm going to create it on one side and then we'll mirror it to the other side. So first I need to create the wood pieces that represent the side and the top. I'm going to take out this piece that is the bottom clearance. And if we look at this photograph we've got here, we're going to try to replicate that detail on the edge of the wood rails here. You know, this is something that is a detail, and depending on how much you're going to see of this piece, whether you're going to be doing any close-ups or whether you're going to be doing any photorealistic rendering, sometimes details like this are not necessary, but we are going to go ahead and model this out just so that you understand how to do it. I'm looking at the picture here, though at the bottom gives you a good idea of what kind of a shape I want to put in here. I'm just going to put an arc onto this corner. Then we're going to use the Follow Me tool to create this shape of the molding basically. Reduce the number of segments. We don't need it to be quite so detailed. And then we're going to select the lines going up and across the top, which is going to be following, which is what this shape is going to be following. I want to create the bottom rail of this footboard and then get rid of the center panel there. And I want actually this piece to be a separate element from the rest of the woodwork here. So I'm going to copy it and delete it, fill in this hole here, clean that up a little bit. I want to select this whole thing and group it so that it's its own entity. And then I'm going to copy and paste in place that piece that I just created before that I had copied. One of the things that I find about woodwork is that there's always a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of the width of things. So to make it more realistic, I pulled that out just a little bit so that it was a little bit thicker than the piece that it was bumping up against. And then I'm using the Bevel tool again here to give it some roundness. I just want to do it on these first two edges. I don't want the middle piece, the middle part of that wood slat to be beveled so that when I mirror it, it will mirror properly. And then I'm just going to put some bevels up along the top edges over here as well, just to give it a bit more realistic smooth edge there. I don't want it to be really detailed or complicated, just kind of soften those edges a little bit. It always looks nicer when it's rendered If you've got round edges on things, in real life, nothing is really a sharp, straight corner. So just softening that up a little bit tends to make things look a little bit more realistic. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to mirror each of these pieces. And then I'm going to delete this middle line there. It's not necessary. And I'm going to mirror this piece as well. Mirror in copy mode, so make sure you're holding your Option key when you do that to make a copy of it. Just going to create a panel here and offset it. Just eyeballing this. This is going to be the trim where the nail heads are going to go. And make that a group. And then we're going to create the padded center here. So I'm going to show you first how to do this without using any sort of extensions. I'm just offsetting a couple of times on this rectangle. Let me group this whole thing so that it's, again, its own entity. Draw some lines from the corners, give it a place to break. And so all we're going to do is we're going to select each of these rings individually and move them along the axis. In this case, it's going to be the green axis. So we're going to lock to the green axis and we're just going to pull them out a little bit. And then we're going to unselect the outermost ring and then move those out along the green axis again. So we're creating sort of a bump out on this piece. This is, you can do this with a lot of different situations if you're making cushions or pillows. For this particular situation, it's perfectly okay. I think that it in the end looks pretty decent once it's all selected, and if you choose the soften coplanar, you'll see that it's created a nice little padded shape and it looks pretty good. There's no reason why this couldn't be your end result for this particular piece. But I also want to show you how to do this using Sub D, because even though this looks pretty good, I think the Sub D version ends up looking just a little bit more realistic. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that real quick. I'm going to hide this one that I've made. Let me just name all these groups here so that I keep my file organized again. Sometimes it's hard to remember to do that while you're in the process of modeling, but it's definitely an important thing to do. Alright, so I'm going to hide that panel that I made, and then we're going to try this again, but I'm going to show you how to do it using Sub D, Vertex Tools, and Quadface Tools. We're going to just select the edges and add a couple of loops in here. And select these ones in the middle, and let's pull those forward a little bit too. Just a real subtle just want to spread these to the top and the bottom a little bit as well. Just going to pull these vertices just a little bit farther out, give it a nice padded look. And then I want to use the corner tool here just to make sure that all these corners are turned the right direction. We select that group and use the sub D tool to soften it, and that looks really nice. The last thing that I want to do on this footboard is let's go ahead and create our nail heads. So the way I'm going to do that is by creating a sphere. We're going to do it over here to the side so we can need to make it a decent size, and then we'll scale it down. Otherwise, if we try to do this too small, then the geometry just breaks and it doesn't work properly. So let's do it over here, and we use the follow me tool on the two circles to create a sphere. And then I'm just going to delete half of it. And then scale it down so that it's kind of flat. And then we're just going to move this guy over to where I want it to show up on the bed over here. We're just going to get it into place, and then we'll scale it down to the size that we want it to be. Now we definitely want to make this a component because we're going to be repeating this element quite a lot. So once I've got it in a good position here, I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and turn it into a component. And now we're going to move this in copy mode. That means I'm going to move it by click and then click the Option key on my keyboard. And before I click out of that action, I'm going to type in divide by, and let's try 30. And that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to look at it next to the photograph here. That looks pretty appropriate, I think, in terms of the spacing. So we're going to select all those nail heads then. And then move in copy mode again. I'm just going to make a copy of them just going straight down, holding on to or tapping the up arrow key to make sure that it stays in its plane. And then I'm going to just these corner ones. I'm going to also move in copy mode, and I'm going to put them up and line them up with the ones on the top. Make sure you hit the copy mode and lock it to the up axis so that it stays in its location. And then we're going to type in divided by, let's try 10. That's too many, I think. 8, no, 6. 6 looks good. And then I'm just deleting the duplicates that showed up right there. Excellent. That's looking really good. I'm very happy with the way that looks. We're going to use this footboard piece to create the headboard piece. We don't need to go and do the whole thing all over again. So first what I want to do is just to clean my file up a little bit, let's just get all these nail heads into one group. Select them all and then group them. Call it nail heads. And then let's make sure everything is in the same group under the footboard. Put that panel into the footboard as well. Now we're going to take this footboard and basically what I want to do is I'm going to copy that footboard and paste it in place, and I'm just going to move it back into the group of the headboard. So now I've got a footboard in the headboard group, and I'm just going to alter the headboard or the footboard that I've created so that I can make it the right size for the headboard. I'm deleting the original cube that I had created that was holding its spot. So, and I'm just going to, this is the trim piece that I'm just going to move down. Gonna go into the nail heads and move the bottom piece down. And then I'm just going to copy and move in copy mode these bottom two pieces, and I'm just going to reference the distance between the one before it and the one after it so that I create the same spacing. I'm going to go into the sub D model here, and I'm going to deactivate the sub D so that I can edit this piece. I'm just going to select the bottom section here, and let's move it down to fit the rest of the headboard. And then I'm just going to loop select this section here, add another loop there, and I'm going to move those sections down a little bit too, just so that the spacing looks right. Reactivate sub D and turn off my hidden geometry, and then smooth this piece again. So we're going to work on some texturing now, and what I want to do is go into the group here for the fabric part of the headboard. We're going to click into that, and then I'm going to be applying a texture that I've created. I call it a UV map, and it is just a 10-inch by 10-inch grid that I've made in Photoshop, and we're going to be using ThruPaint to edit this texture on the surface. And what we're going to try to do is make this grid match the scale of the piece. So with ThruPaint, I'm going to select, there's the uniform scale, and then there's the projection texturing. So we're going to use the projection texturing just to get everything nice and flat. Measuring this headboard piece, it's about 36 inches, so I'm just going to use ThruPaint to scale this texture so that it fits properly. So each large grid square from one green triangle to the next represents 10 inches. So you can see it's 10, 20, 30 inches there. Scale it down just a little bit so that I'm showing 36 inches on the height of the backboard there. And then using ThruPaint again, I'm going to use the copy the texture map from one piece to the other so that the scale and the settings are all the same. I do need to rotate this one around a little bit so that it matches the direction of the arrows. And then we're going to apply the same texture to the trim piece here. And then same on the headboard piece. Then we're going to go into the component for the nail head, and we're just going to add a color to that. If you're going to be rendering this, then you'll want to use an actual texture, but for our purposes here, I'm just going to pick a brassy sort of color. And last, we're going to go into the headboard, or the wood part of the headboard. I'm going to go and find a texture on my computer, something that looks like this sort of light colored wood. I've got a bunch of materials that I've organized and textured onto my hard drive, and this one I think looks good, this wood 58. I want to change the scale because I don't want it to be 6 feet. I want it to be smaller than that, so I've got it down to 6 inches or 10 inches there. I'm going to apply this texture to the wood. Before I do that, I want to split this piece, because the corner piece of this footboard, the way that it's constructed, these two pieces of wood meet at a miter, so I want to be able to adjust the texture so that it follows that miter. So just putting that line in there so that when the texture gets applied, it looks realistic. And then just for these two end pieces, we want the texture to be going in the same direction for these two pieces. So again, with ThruPaint, I'm going to click on the surface, and then I'm going to scale that texture to what I think is appropriate. I actually think it needs to be pretty nice and big so that we can see that grain. And then along the top, again, I'm going to go into ThruPaint, and I use this projection selection here to kind of reset the scaling, and then I'll use the projection mode and then go back to the UV mapping mode, and that allows me to edit that independent of the connected pieces. And then again, I think I'm just going to scale this up a little bit so that it looks right. And then we're just going to use the same technique to add the texture to this bottom slat here. I'm going to copy the texture there and apply it here, and then just rotate it. Then we're going to do the side pieces in the same way, using ThruPaint, and we're just going to rotate the texture on the surface there. Sometimes it's a little bit delayed in its reaction, so. And then we're going to do the same thing to the headboard that we did to the footboard. I'm just going to speed this up because it's just the same process. And then the last thing that I want to do is I want to replace this UV map that I've put on here with the appropriate fabric texture. And again, I've got some materials already in my file. I'm just going to pick this one that is kind of a linen material. And if I check the scale on it, we can see that this is a 2-inch by 2-inch texture, which when applied is going to take up 2 inches of my UV map, so everything should be textured appropriately. I'm going to click into the surface. I'm going to select the surface over in the Entity Info window, and then I'm just going to select it and then change it out to the other texture. That maintains the mapping so that everything, when it gets applied, it's nice and clean looking. Just going to add the texture to the back of this piece too here. So that looks pretty good, you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and stick around and watch a couple of these other videos that I've made on how to model furniture.